where candlelights flicker and stockings lay, when all your calendars have one last day. When the party is over, comes the drive home, and the Christmas cheer from the misty drone. The air is arctic, the house is lit, where good old St. Nicholas begins his trip, all along the winter sky. Star to star be passing by, with planets of which we could only dream, when the burning fire drifts us off to sleep. So as Santa arrives here tonight, you should stay in your beds, tucked up tight. Let the light on the trees glisten bright, as we count sheep within the night. And as we snuggle up warm and fall asleep, there we enter our mystical dreams. Some enchanting, others festive. The stories I bring this eve may suggest it. So count your stockings with delight, and wrap up warm round the firelight. Drink some milk, if you might, because this Potterhead has stories tonight. December 24th is upon us, friends, and the arrival of Christmas Eve has finally begun. No matter what you've been doing this evening, whether that be partying in a rave or reading at home, we've all been waiting for Christmas time to finally come. And as the clock clicks closer to Christmas Day, I figured I'd tell you some stories tonight while you rest your weary heads. Because let's face it, it's 11 PM on Christmas Eve. Of course you're tired. Nobody isn't. And to send you off into the world of sleep, I thought I'd share some stories here I have to read. I need to stop rhyming, so I figured, why not make my recounting of my crazy lucid dreams into a celebration every once in a while? I mean, the last Lucid Dreams performed incredibly well, and the first one nearly has 200 views, and the two combined have over 505. Like, what the actual heck? I love you guys. So anyway, with that out of the way, you're probably wondering in your sleepy head, how can any of these dreams be festive? I mean, most of the dreams you've talked about on this channel have been disjointed horror stories. How on earth could you talk about your dreams for a festive video on Christmas? So yeah, what I somehow didn't mention in my past stories is that I started lucid dreaming a long time ago. Like, probably been around 2 years since I started lucid dreaming. Roughly from, when this video is coming out. In fact, I can actually remember the day I had my first lucid dream. It's just really weird how these sort of things come to you when other things don't. I think it was like around 2021 when I turned these like unused art books I had into diaries for like my lucid dreams and stuff like that. I've been writing down everything that's been happening. Everything. Literally everything. Everything that's happened. From like horrible nightmares to pleasant lullabies. It's all in here. Literally all of it. It's all in these books. Even like dreams I'll have about like movies and video games, they'll be in these books and I'll write them down. So excuse me for a minute while I try and find something Christmassy. Okay, maybe more than a minute. Cut back to VO. So yeah, anyway, ignoring that important piece of information, I'm going to talk about these dreams in no cohesive order because you can't exactly rank a dream based off of how festive that dream is. So I'm going to do it in a completely non-chronological order. So let's just get into this, shall we? Now this one is just straight up strange and oddly vivid, even for my standards. So it started with me in this upside down space station with wizards everywhere. And stay with me here, it gets stranger. They all kept talking about this strange code that can send you across the galaxy using a controller. And because I figured I was the only astronaut in this situation, I walked up to one of the wizards to ask him how to use the code. And as soon as he began to talk to me, I noticed something. He shared the appearance of a huge lobster. Assuming that he was just an alien, I spoke direct English with him, asking him all about the code and what they were all on about on the ship. Because really, I'm just as confused as you are, mate. After our chat, I asked for the control of the colony we're speaking so highly of, and he gave me what appeared to be a mesh between a PS4 controller and a GameCube controller, with the screen plastered oddly on top of it. It was strange nonetheless, but even stranger, when I went to grab it, I couldn't even use my hands. In fact, I couldn't even see them. And this is what flipped that switch in my head again. It really did take me a while to understand that I was dreaming, but everything somewhat added up. The lobster head guy, the N64 controller, and the upside-down wizard spaceship. It all just clicked right then and there. I still wanted to know the secrets of this strange world, so I plugged the controller into my ship and shot out at light speed. And and accelerated into warp drive. After a few minutes of warping across the galaxy, my ship slowed down abruptly and the controller had disappeared. Now, it was replaced by this landline telephone. Ignoring this strange oddity, I landed on the most nearby planet I could find. A white, icy world, with vibrant warm reds and greens scattered across its dark surface. Once I landed, I approached a dense marsh pit, and there were these very strange jellyfish glowing around the area. I went towards them to have a closer look, and noticed that they looked like Christmas ornaments, with bright glowing stars atop them and tinsel gliding softly under them. This wasn't the only strange thing, however. There were also tinsels floating around the area too. I searched around the land until I came across a damp, dark, and cold cave. As I scoured about the dark cave, I came across something strange. A large jellyfish poked its head out of the chasm and roared at me. I threw multiple rocks at it, but it wouldn't stop making a racket, and eventually I ran out of rocks to throw and began to throw the only thing I had, baubles. It picked it up and began to eat it. The creature obviously must have adored the meal, because after eating it, its hostility levels reached a calm standard too. But I knew this creature would keep roaring if I didn't feed it, so I set out to find some baubles around in the cave. After finding and feeding it one by one for multiple times, I eventually ran out of baubles to feed the creature. In fear of it roaring back and getting aggressive with me, I pulled out the only thing I could find: tinsel. As it chomped down on the tinsel, it fell into an instant slumber, leaving me alone in the dark cave. I set up a campfire and pulled out the marshmallows I had in my pocket for some reason, and began to eat the marshmallows. It was hard to do so. I remember having distinct trouble with my hands, because my hands weren't working for some reason. They felt disconnected from the rest of my body, to put it that way. After I roasted the marshmallows, I went over to this tree and began to decorate it with the strange mushrooms I had found in the cave, along with the N64 PS4 controller from earlier, which shined brightly atop the tree in the dark. I left the cave and launched out the planet into outer space once more. But this time, the phone began ringing. I tried to pick up the phone, but the receiver couldn't understand me or hear me, nor could I hear them. Out of confusion, I woke up to the alarm ringing on the desk beside me. So in this dream, I'm a literal elf for Santa Claus. I get the task of wrapping up presents late at night. So as I probably would, I get tired of my shift and set the automations to work for me while I explore the North Pole. I got out of the building via a slide and looked around at the village of the North, finding a map showing more North Pole villages and factories ahead. I pull out an invisibility cloak and head over via flying to the cavernous mountains and foresty tundras of the villages. As I look around the village, Hagrid shows up and we both start talking about Santa's workload in all his villages. Together we get some drinks at a nearby bar. We end up having a great time and getting invited to the back room of the pub, fitting as the lounge/living room of the place. The night ends when me, Santa and Hagrid all get drunk in the room together, and I wake up confused. Now, I get it. All of these dreams have been, dare I say, lackluster. I mean, this is coming from the guy who has cosmic battles with Martians in his dreams. Surely there's got to be an interesting story from a dream I've had. And my reasoning for the previous recounts being lackluster is to profit off of the other big ones in later videos. But ignoring that for now, I have one true dream I had. One true dream that was so vivid and awesome, it shouts Christmas loudly in the air as it runs through its kick-ass story at 550 miles an hour. Well, in this one, prepare for a roller coaster of emotions and feelings as we tackle the retelling of an apocalyptic Christmas setting. At number 1, we have... It all started off with me in a quiet suburban neighbourhood, a place that felt oddly like a cartoon world. It was Christmas Eve, from what I knew. The stockings were all hung up, the lights were all aglow, and the calendars on their final day. I woke up in an attic bedroom, freezing cold. There was no sheets on the flat mattress I was sleeping on. I drew in a deep, cold breath from my chest, now empty. I felt older, taller, and much hairier. I explored around the house, but came across no people, as if a family had once lived there. I was slightly confused about where I was, so I invited my godbrother over to the house. Looking back, I seem to believe we might have been aged up throughout these events. From what I'm going to guess, I was around 19 or 20, and he was around 16 or 17, which is slightly inaccurate to our actual age difference, but we're going to ignore it for now. My godbrother, who we're going to call Elliot for convenience, looked a lot more tall and a lot like my real-life body shape and build. Probably shorter than the real me, but definitely of the lanky type. I explained the scenario I'd found myself in, and he explained to me that he had sold this house to a man at the beginning of December. Elliot was predictably an estate agent and sold houses with suburban areas similar to the ones we were currently in. He asked me how art school was, and all of a sudden, memories of this world flashed before my eyes. Yeah, it's going okay. Job's paying off. Managed to buy a new car. The memory of myself buying a car was something that I could picture, but not fully possess. Almost as if I had done it, but not remembered any of the full story or what the car looked like. Elliot sat near the fireplace, turned to me and asked, "Do you reckon Santa will pay a visit to all the kids this year?" He turned to me dazedly as I said to him, "Yeah, it's only mad he hasn't showed up to pay my taxes." I sat by his side and comforted him before asking, "Has he left for you this year?" He turned to me dreamily and nodded. "No, he's still coming." I smiled at Elliot. Santa stopped for me after age 16. I always said I wanted it that way, but after you grow up a lot, you learn to love the people around you and not the idols you look up to. But it's fine. You're still a kid, even at your age. I patted him on the back and leapt up to a stand. "Should we go for a drive, pal?" "Yeah." We loaded into the back of my car, a bulky truck of black, strapped in our seatbelts, but then sat there for a moment, in utter silence. In the moment, I looked into his eyes and asked, "Everything okay?" He turned to me anxiously and said, "No, something just feels really off about this." Thinking that he was talking about the drive, I turned to him and said, "Hey, we've done this before, loads of times. There cannot be a possible way it goes wrong on a night like Christmas." But Elliot was right. Something was off. But not about the drive. About the house. It felt as though someone was inside it, rummaging through what sounded like boxes and plates and tripping over wires. I, being the bigger brother I was, got out the car and went to have a look. All the previous boxing skills flashing by in my mind. I held my fists out, ready to hit the person who had wrongly entered the home. But then, I saw something coming from the chimney. A crackle and a fall revealed a skinny, bony, dishevelled body of an undead zombie. What had to have been a zombie. I threw a sharp uppercut directly at its jaw as it sprawled on the ground in pain. Just then, we heard walking from the distance, and tens of zombies began piling into the living room, all groaning and twisting in a deathly stance. I grabbed Elliot's hand and told him to run to the car as soon as I let go. As all the zombie bodies twisted disjointedly towards us, gaining on our every move, I threw out another hit to the forehead of the alpha, only knocking him down onto the hard wooden floor. They lurched and dived towards me, ripping my clothes, tearing through my shirt, and in this desperate moment, I pushed away Elliot's hand as he belted out of the living room and out the door. It was just me, being beaten, ripped, and hurt between these zombies, until I grabbed the plug from the light socket and wrapped it around the dead man's throat, hoping desperately to end it quickly and painlessly for both me and him. The zombie groaned and fell to the ground. The other two packs lurched at me, with roars so horrific you couldn't even imagine the sound. I wielded the plug like a weapon, using it to stab and shock the zombies piling on top of me. After I took out the strongest of the pack, around 12 remained. I could tell now it was the time to get the fuck out of here before any recovered. I whipped the extension lead around the room, pulling it and nabbing it as hard as possible before placing the cable end into the fireplace, setting it alight and starting a rapid electrical fire. I shot out of the house as the flames grew up and burst outward, burning the door to a crisp behind me. I dived for the car, opened the door, and sat inside. Elliot was at the steering wheel. I looked back at the house with a horrifying feeling penetrating my gut. Several zombies came running towards our car, grabbing and gnawing at it as they jumped disgruntledly at us. As I yelled Elliot to go, stop the car now, go! Elliot, under the pressure, broke and booted up the car, shooting out of the parking space. We were breaking so many speed limit laws, but we didn't care. It was for our lives the zombies didn't get us. We were perhaps going at 80 miles an hour because from every corner, Elliot narrowly slid and dodged fast-passing buildings and gardens. The zombies from behind began to grow wings and fly at the car at a rapid pace. In the moment of terror and fear and action, Elliot flew over 3 gardens and over a house roof at breakneck speeds even us speed junkies found deadly. After landing, Elliot swerved round before launching through the road into the woods. We were now going at 60 miles an hour, feeling much less sick than the previous 95. "Thank God we made it, man. I don't know how we did. I have just one small issue." "What?" "I can't drive a car. I've just started learning." "Elliot, watch out for the tree!" We crashed directly into the tree. Dazed, I woke up again in a cemetery. Graves were scattered around the frosty woodlands for miles, seemingly going on forever and ever. There was a sick feeling in my stomach. I looked around at the dark wood and found the car. Now a pile of boxes. I rummaged through the boxes, nervously trying to find something, a weapon, anything, but all I found was a pack of cigarettes and an oddly shaped lighter. I found Elliot in a ditch. It was a wonder he was alive. He had just woken up, in fact. He stumbled over to me and cried, "I told you I was a bad driver. Look at what I've done." "I don't blame you, Elliot." "Look at what I've done." "This isn't your fault, okay? We were caught up in the moment and something happened. It could have happened to anyone, okay? It's not your fault. Promise. And me and you are going to figure out what's going on here, okay?" He looked at me and nodded in determination as we set off into the graveyard looking for clues to at least explain what was happening to us, what was going on with the zombies, until we stumbled along rows of chimneys beside the graves, miles of strange chimneys with echoing harsh screams in the atmosphere around them. I peered down the chimney, hoping to find something, anything that could help us with the mystery we had found ourselves in. There has to be something, at least someone there. I can't see anyone down there, Dexter. Can we just go? I found a shovel, but I doubt there's anything else here. No, I know there's something down there, and I can tell you about it. But just then, the bricks we stood on cracked, and we both fell down the chimney. Dexter, what in the name of frick is this place? We were in a factory, a steampunk factory. Inside was a giant railway carrying presents to all the chimneys. However, the next carriage was carrying a liquid ooze of green, and the one following was carrying skulls, and the next one following was carrying bodies. We need to get up to that mine track and fast. Do we have to? It's the only way. We both followed the tracks among their destinations and found the train station leading them up there. We boarded one of the tracks and set off, the route morphing slowly as we rode along the rickety tracks and flimsy rails. It became clear that this was undoubtedly a roller coaster. Now, I love roller coasters. I'm even an enthusiast, dare I say, but Elliot utterly hates them. So I spent the whole time sat by his side, holding his hand as we plummeted up and down the 500-foot drops into oblivion, with loops that would probably split you into 20 neat slices, and twists and turns that would probably break every bone in your body. All of this was so hard on poor Elliot. He could not, for the life of him, stop screaming. The coaster eventually morphed into a minecart track and stopped at the pit of the chimneys above. Elliot and I were thrown out of the minecart and into a dark chimney, where it all went pitch black. I felt around for Elliot in the darkness and heard two loud groans coming from the corner of the chimney. In fear, I backed up against the wall, in fear for my life, in fear for Elliot's, when all of a sudden, a brick began to move, and it was thrown against the wall. I flicked the lighter on and saw Elliot throwing the flimsy bricks directly at the zombie silhouettes, each one bleeding out as its face was smashed against the wall. Elliot had no mercy. He looked as though he'd been in a brutal war and never come to peace with it. He grunted to me, "Come on, let's get out of this hellhole." I followed Elliot around the bending brick tunnel and out the chimney, when all of a sudden, I woke up in Elliot's bedroom. It was during a party, clearly a Christmas Eve party. I walked downstairs, feeling like an outsider, nothing more than a memory looking in on a place that I've once been. I saw the parents playing games, with no sign of Elliot or his sister. In a moment of confusion, I woke up in their chimney, a fireless smoke forming below me, hands of the dead reaching out to me as the steam drew nearer and nearer. I was powerless to escape. But then, I heard Elliot's voice ringing in my ears. "Use the lighter, Dexter, the lighter!" I pulled out a lighter and lit a fire below, epic style, never looking back. I heard the dying screams of the zombies below and grasped onto the bricks above, slipping down into the flames. "Elliot, if I go down this route, just remember that Santa will be home this Christmas, okay? Keep dreaming, man. Keep dreaming." It all dawned on me as I let go of the bricks and fell into the flames. Then I woke up again. In a memory, almost, I was on the rooftop of my house, talking to him. Even if nobody knows they're dreaming, it takes one strong soul to wake up. "You've been a member of my dream this whole time?" "Nothing more, Dexter. The real me is much more different than this. The real you is different from the dream you, too. Merry Christmas, Elliot." "Don't tell me, Dexter. Tell the real Elliot once you've finished in this world." I'm going to wake up now, okay? Goodbye, Dexter. Then I woke up, nice and warm in my bed, lights glowing kindly on the tree, and spirits high up in the sky. I hope he and his family have a very Merry Christmas. I tucked up tight and fell into a dreamless sleep for the final hours until morning. I wish everybody watching this video a Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year. Oh yeah, and keep dreaming.